Kempy! Woo! Yeah, hello, my name's James Buckler. I'm from Somerset, and I started fishing Manor, it's about 5 years ago now. I've seen a picture of Kempy's Linear, of course, on social media, and we all know it's a truly special fish. And from first seeing it, I just thought to myself, this is where I want to focus my time. I first saw Kempy's on the bank 3 years ago, and I actually did the photos for it. Having done some research, a lot like a lot of the anglers on here at the moment, this fish comes out like clockwork, sort of second week of May, that sort of time. It really does love a spring catcher. And I've been in the sort of right area 3 times now. I photographed her 3 times. It's always come out of the peg next door to me. So I've managed to position myself in the area. I think it's going to come out. This session is completely different, really, because it's so busy at the moment. There was only 1 peg available when I came down on Friday late afternoon to bucket a swim. But looking at the weather, that new fresh southwesterly pumping down in here, I thought, this isn't a bad thing. She doesn't usually come out of this area in spring. It's usually along the riverbank or out in the middle from the sort of car park peg. So, I didn't feel I was in pole position, but having done the photos for it 3 times, been so close to it, it's just my time, I suppose. I've never actually fished this peg before, so I'm in the big double on the road bank, so it's peg 5 and 6. And I'm aware that there's a big clear area about halfway between here and the far bank, and it's a nice runway into this sort of deepish bay to my right that the fish of course get into, and this sort of southwesterly wind sort of pumps up this end. And in terms of finding the spot, I knew roughly where it was from sort of previous anglers and chatting to them. So I started off at 20 wraps, which is certainly the limit out of here. And just casting in the sort of area where I thought the spot was. It was weedy, so I came back and I just found it straight away. You couldn't miss it. It's a big old spot. It's obviously seen a lot of bait, and it's perfect. It's rock hard right in the sort of middle of the V in the trees where anglers aim at, and then as you go to the right, drift away from that V, it gets softer and softer as the silt is sort of building up. So it's a perfect spot for different options and different substrates. So in terms of bait application, I was fishing over there in the Browns last week when we did the filming, and I've applied the same thing, the same tactic that I apply every time I fish on Manor. I think consistency in your angling and being confident in what you're doing is absolutely key. Just because she's due, there's a lot of tension in the air, everyone wants to catch her. There's a sort of that temptation to try and do something different and a bit special, but stuck to my guns, do what I sort of always do and know that works on here, and that's as soon as I come into the peg, as I just mentioned, find a nice area that I can present comfortably 3 rods on, and then a decent amount of bait. And by that I mean 15 to 20 of the large spoms, trying to land them sort of get in the same hole every cast as accurately as I can, and then sort of work from there really. Leave the rods in for 24 hours, don't wind them in, find out when that bite time is, and then for my next night I know exactly what to expect. So 15 to 20 spoms. First night I had a 37-pound mirror, a real big old fish, really gave me the runaround out there, and that was a part of a double take with a smaller common actually. So they definitely turned up on the spot at that time around sort of 11 to midnight. Didn't top back up, left them out, nothing else happened. So second day came round, I knew full well that that's probably going to be bite time, so I didn't put another load of bait out there. I just re-topped it up. I only had 2 bites off it, probably a few bits and bobs still down there. I've not got any tench off the spot, so I topped back up with sort of only 8 spoms, and the reason for that is we didn't see anything show through the day. I've seen 1 bite on here in the last sort of 24 hours, and I just don't think they're particularly having it. So the last thing I want is to have hundreds of pieces of food on the deck, and my hook bait less likely to get taken. So the ingredients, as I mentioned earlier, it's so important to be confident in what you're using, and nothing's changed. I keep everything in the mix small and the same sort of size. You've probably heard it before, but it's effective. You know, those small particles, all a similar sort of size as I mentioned. I think they find it really difficult to pick out which one's a hook bait. So it's 12mm boilies and the monster tiger nut by dynamite baits. That's my go-to bait. I've used it all winter. The water's still cold. Why make a change? So that's the boilie of choice. The corn, I use the dynamite corn, of course. It's really bright and sweet, which is important. And then just mix in with a bit of hemp, really. And that's it. 3 ingredients. No liquids this time, nothing special, just keeping it really simple. So over the last 2 weeks, from the last session I did over on the riverbank and the filming, and now of course sort of fast forwarding to this session, I've been fishing with the cameraman who's sat behind the camera now. He's been doing a bit of his own fishing on here at the weekend after the filming, etc. And he's caught a phenomenal amount of carp, in excess of 30 carp, and he's had the whole A-team minus Kempy's Linear. He's had 3 of the real special ones. So there's definitely something in that in what he's using in his approach. And we've caught them on the same hook bait that Kempy's has come on. The spod mix is the same, the hook bait's the same, and that's just the same thing I always use on here. Yellow, hit and run, pop up, trim down, so it's it's taking about 20 seconds to hit the bottom when I'm testing in the margins. It's so critically balanced. And you might think when the fish move in on that spot, the hook bait's wafting up, and it does your head in thinking about it, really. I always thought before, have it sort of plumb down on the bottom so it's sat there, but watching Steve fish it that critically balanced and get that many bites, there's got to be something in it. So I'll be stupid not to just make that little tweak to my angling, and I have, and every fish has been absolutely nailed, and there's got to be something in it with those yellow hook baits, those hit and run pop-ups. In terms of the rig and its mechanics, as I mentioned, it's absolutely fundamental that pop-up's wafting down really slowly, super critically balanced. And the other really key point is it blends in on the bottom. Manor's a clear gravel pit anyway, like a lot of the linear lakes, but particularly this time of year, it's absolutely gin clear right now. And I think it's really important for your rig to blend in with the lake bed, so that the fish don't know you're fishing for them. So in terms of with that in mind, in terms of the hook length material, I use the Optimex. A lot like other fluorocarbons, it's absolutely invisible on the lake bed. I use it in the 23 pound, just for confidence and strength of it, and also fishing with a helicopter rig, that 23 pound hook length's a bit stiffer, so you're sure it's absolutely going to kick away. In terms of the hook, use a nice big size 4, use the Carp Spirit razor points. As I've mentioned before, you don't need to sharpen them, they are sharp enough out the packet, so it just saves time, nice and strong. And it's something I'm absolutely confident with, and it's just fished on the sort of classic Ronnie rig setup, really. It sounds cliche, but I really had a funny feeling about this session. It was never planned. After the filming we did over there last week, I've come down on a weekend and managed to get in the last peg. It was kind of last minute, but I messaged my partner and said I'm going to catch Kempy's, and I just had that feeling. I plotted up in the swim, as I mentioned before, found a spot I was confident on. Fast forwarding to the night of Kempy's last night, and so I had my first bite. It was bang on sort of 11 o'clock at night. Lovely 30 pound common. Went and got Steve next door, did the photos, lovely job. Rod back out on the spot. Went to get back into bed thinking, you never know, might get another one. Got my head down, and then just one beep. I just looked at the receiver and the light was just there looking back at me, and I thought, I've got to go out and investigate. So pulled back out of the bivvy over to the rods, and the bobbins just sat up half an inch higher than the others. I looked at my lines, there's no kiting going on, it's just sat there. And I thought, well, the bobbins move, I know there's weed beyond the spot. I've either been done or there's a fish on there. So I picked up, wound into it, and it was just like hitting a snag. It's just stopped, and then tick 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 tick, she started to run away, and I knew it was a big fish instantly. So I'm getting a bit nervous at this point, and then I hear a splash out on the surface, and as I mentioned before, I've done the photos for Kempy 3 times, and I've seen someone playing her, and she's got this habit of hitting the surface when you hook her and staying on the top. But my brain didn't compute that it could be the one. I just thought, big fish on, she's hit the surface, just concentrate and get her in. Anyway, you know, sort of played ball, got a bit weeded up out there, but then came back up onto the surface, just winding her in really carefully. I got her about 10-15 yards off the bank, and I started feeling this real strange bumping on the rod, you know, like something shaking. It just felt unusual, nothing like I felt before. So I turned my head torch onto the really strong beam so I could see out into the crystal clear water, and I just saw, you know, this big shape on the end of my line, and there was a tench attacking her, you know, swimming into her, and that was what that bumping was. The tench was bumping off my line. I couldn't believe it, and at first I thought, you know, is this trailing another fish or something? And I was just watching it, and then the tench went right off the spot into the gloom. You know, I lost her in the head torch, and then it came back and did it again. Then it was flapping on the surface. I have absolutely no explanation for why that was going on, and it'd be interesting to know if anyone else out there does have a reasoning for that. But yeah, that tench really didn't like the fact I had her on, and she was definitely bumping on the line. But that all subsided. And I got her in, and she did the classic where she just plods up and down the margins, holding deep. And it's nice and deep here, but you know, it's crystal clear, and I can see it's a big fish. But for some reason, my brain sort of told me it was a common. And I could see lots of scales, and I thought, cool, I got, you know, it's a real big common I got on here. Just going up and down the margins, and eventually she sort of, you know, started to get beaten. Popped up on the surface. I still didn't notice Kempy's at this point. Slowly bringing her towards the net, and my head torch has seen better days. The strap's starting to go, so with a hat on it's perfectly tight and it stays there, but I didn't have my hat on because it was warm last night, so it was really loose, and I sort of put my head up like that just to get her in the net, and the headlight's fallen over my eyes, and I've just netted where I think she is, pulled it back, lifted the head torch out, and I've missed her. You know, she hasn't even gone in the net. And that was the moment when I pulled that head torch back over my eyes and I saw her on the surface right in front of my net. I knew it was Kempy's Linear. And I just swooped her up, pulled her into the margins, put her down, and I literally just fell to my knees in the margins. And I just could not believe, you know, she graced me with her presence. Absolutely magical moment.
Okay, whilst it's still fresh in your memory, can you just tell me a little bit about the fight and what's happened?
So this is my fourth fish of the session, and I mean, I'm struggling to put words together here. Yeah, I mean, I just slipped back a 30-pound common, got the rod back out onto the spot. You know, I thought to myself, there ain't a lot of bait down there. Do I re-top up? No, I just left it. Gone to get back in the bag, knackered after catching last night, and just a really slow take, just one beat to the top. I knew it was a good fish. It's hit the surface as I'm playing it, and you know, I've seen her come out before, and I know she does that, but I didn't want to jinx it. But there, when she popped down in front of the net, I've missed it on the first scoop of the net. My head torch has fallen over my eyes. And then on the second one, I've seen the linear scales, and she's gone in, and just, oh, absolutely magic. That way, so the head's up here. There she is, Kempy's Linear. It's been a long 5 years that I've been fishing this lake, and hoping that one day she might grace me with her presence, and tonight's my night. 50 pound and 4 ounces of, in my opinion, the best day to get carp in the country. Absolutely buzzing. I'm not kissing it. Come on. Kempy! Woo!
Come on, boys!
Come on! I always ran through scenarios in my head of if I caught her, you know, who I'd want to be there with me and enjoying the moment, and I always I always thought, you know, I don't want loads of people in the peg all coming over. I want to enjoy it with, like, you know, really good mates. So I was lucky to have Steve here, you know, as a real good pal, just to enjoy it together. I rung up Ian Roper, the bailiff, obviously as per the procedure, and said, any time of the night, James, you wake me up, you know, if she comes out. So I woke him up, and, you know, he gave me the congratulations. It's, you know, just a brilliant moment, all part of the story. He sent Ben down, you know, the weekend bailiff. And Ben's a brilliant laugh anyway, and he come into the swim, and I was, you know, a gibbering wreck, just excited, nervous, didn't really know what to do with myself, and he just settled the whole moment with his humour. You know, we had a great laugh, and yeah, what a special memory with a couple of good chaps. So over the sort of 5 years of fishing Manor, you know, I've caught some really special fish, and the thing about this place, it just seems to throw up, you know, ones you haven't seen before, and you know, real special scaly ones, and big commons. You know, stacks of big commons are coming out of here. It's just, the stock in here is phenomenal, and it really is my happy place in spring, Manor. I've just got so many good memories. I just love being here. It's just got a vibe about it, this place, to me, and it's a really special lake. So it's kind of a little bit bittersweet that, you know, this is the end of my time on Manor. It's done, you know, it's finished, and yeah, I don't know really what to say, but it's yeah, that's my last fish out of here, and what a way to go out. What a special place.
Take a stand, show your hand. When your world is falling down and the answers can't be found, when the sky has turned to grey.